Hey guys and gals, this is George, the Shade Tree Railroad Man today, and I am in Lewistown, is that right? Louisville, Colorado. No, Toto, we ain't in Minnesota at the moment. And we have a very special treat today. I'm here at a model railroad layout, and I'm going to introduce you, well, actually, I'm going to ask the owner to introduce himself, and he's going to tell us about the layout and about the concept, because this is a totally new concept for me. So hang on to your hats, and here we go. So, the name of the model railroad shop store is Tim's Toys Trains.
Yep.
And this is Tim.
Hi.
So from there, Tim, tell us what your full name is and give us your address here.
My name's Tim Burton. I'm the owner of Tim's Toy Trains here in Louisville, Colorado. We're about halfway between Denver and Boulder off of Highway 36. And we're primarily an O-gauge store, Lionel store. And what I've done is I've done a new concept in a brick and mortar store, moved away from the retail side of business and went into the service side of business. And what I've done is I built a big train layout where you can come and run your trains on the layout. You don't need a home layout anymore. You don't need to be a member of a modular club anymore. You can simply come here and run your trains. Right now we have 3 gauges of trains on 3 different tracks. We have a combination of O and S track. We have a dedicated O track, and we have a combination of O and standard gauge track. This is all Gargraves. This center O gauge track is a 12-foot diameter circle. The other 2 are correspondingly about a foot narrower in diameter and a foot wider in diameter. These are also wired so that you can run 2-rail O gauge on here also, simply by plugging into the different banana jacks.
Now, you told me, Tim, that you're going to be making a modification here before too long, where you're actually going to move the center track in and add another...
Yes. We're going to move the center O-gauge track over. We're going to jog it over slightly, and we're going to lay in another section of Gargraves O and standard gauge track that Gargraves, if you special request it, will actually jog the center rail over, and that allows you to run G gauge also on this same track. So we'll be able to run 4 different gauges on the tracks, plus 2-rail O gauge at the same time.
Okay. And now you notice, folks, that there's an upper level that has been started just in this corner here. And Tim said that he's going to be running N gauge and HO gauge up on the shelf level.
Yeah.
And one thing we just started talking, so I don't have much information. He's going to give it to you. But look at the size of this thing as I pan around the room. And obviously, it's not done, and he has more stuff to do. Are you going to be doing scenic work on it eventually?
No, we're not going to do scenic work for
Okay.
a couple of reasons. The one reason is we wanted to make this wheelchair accessible so
Okay.
that you can sit in a wheelchair and you can see your train all the way around.
Okay.
Whether you're in a wheelchair or just sitting here in a regular chair, you can see your train essentially all the way around. You don't have to walk around. The other thing is, with so many different scales involved, we would never be able to homogenize the scenery together.
Right.
So this is simply a place to come run your trains, exercise your trains. We have about a 1.8% grade coming up this way in I guess it would be a counterclockwise direction. And then coming down the other side is about a 0.8 or so. It's calculated. I haven't actually put an inclinometer on it yet. That way you can put your trains on and you can run your trains and you can see just how powerful your locomotives are, how much they can pull before they start to slip the wheels or things like that. This is also a great place for O-gauge to run the big, long, 21-inch long scale passenger cars that you normally don't see a lot of layouts that can run that on and look good. So, and it's about, the outside perimeter of the table is about 158 feet around.
Wow.
So you can really get some long trains going around here.
Yeah, you sure could. Wow. And Tim was telling me what gave him the idea for this. Would you like to tell us a little bit about
sure.
what inspired your idea for this?
Yeah, for a couple years now, we've been listening to customers come in, and particularly in O gauge, a lot of people just don't have the space layouts for the larger scale, big articulated locomotives and the scale passenger cars that are so beautiful that everybody wants. Very, very few people have the opportunity to run those trains. A lot of people have the older, kind of post-war era sized layouts, couple
Right.
sheets of plywood, 42-inch curves, things like that. So a lot of people either can't buy the stuff because they don't have any place to run it, or if they do buy it, it sits in the closet or something until they actually can get around to having a place to run it. So that gave me the sense that there was a need for something like this. We do have modular clubs in the area. We don't have a lot of train shows in the area, though, so they don't really get a chance to get out and stretch their legs very
Which
often.
surprises me for a metropolitan area
Yeah.
like Denver.
Yeah, we really only have 3 or 4 major shows a year.
Okay.
And then a couple of library events here and there that some of the smaller clubs can run their HO and N-scale modulars at. But I went and visited a slot car. We have a dedicated slot car store here in Longmont, Colorado, about 10 miles north. And he let me kind of tour his facility, and he let me and my son play around with the slot cars one Sunday afternoon. And on the drive back, it suddenly dawned on me that I should be able to do that same concept with trains.
Exactly.
So this concept, this is not a club in the sense that you don't have to work on this train layout at all. You simply come in, you pay a membership for unlimited access, and that allows you 24/7 access to the train layout. And you can come in anytime you want. I don't have to be here. You run your trains, and you're able to do whatever you want to do.
Tim has to step out because not only does he have this set up, but he actually has a retail store next door, which is what we came to initially. But look at the size of this place. And he does have a little bit of a layout down in the middle here. I assume that these are probably his own things. And that's a pretty cool setup down in there. Got some vintage trains, box cars. Yeah, pretty neat idea. I have never seen this before, never heard of this idea before. I'm familiar with the slot cars, as you all may have been. You can see, well, he's got some HO and N gauge stuff down in there, but that's going to go up on the shelf, he said. And the neat thing is, here's some of the things on display. Look at this cool inspection car. Nice. Look at the size of those big boys. Ooh-wee.
What kind of a train was that, do you know? That Edaville? Edaville train. Was it
It was narrow gauge.
Narrow gauge.
Narrow gauge.
And they have animated videos and stuff that.
Some neat vintage. Sorry, the footage got a lot of reflection on it, but
Yeah, that's still running.
just give you an idea what's here.
Thomas trains now instead of the other stuff.
And storage room for more.
Soda that's eaten. I think it's eaten berry. That was an
So there you have it, guys and gals, and I just wanted to say thanks to Tim for sharing his layout with us. And if you happen to be living up in the Denver area, you ought to check this place out. You could run to your heart's content. You could run some pretty long trains on here. And it's not limited to any particular consist, and you got several different sizes to run on the layout. It's going to be a neat setup when it's all done. It's already operational now.
It is operational, yeah. Right now, it's just the 3 gauges, the O, the S, and the standard gauge. G gauge will be coming, and then HO and the N will be coming, and the HO track will actually be a combo track itself with HO and HON3,
Right.
and also will enable you to run ON30.
Okay.
So we'll have a lot of multi-gauge opportunities to run pretty much anything you're into.
Yeah. So it won't keep anybody out
No.
that's interested in running.
No, in fact, we did find out on a fluke that you can actually run European, I think it's 1 gauge, you can actually run on this track also.
Okay.
It just happens to work. So
Okay.
I have one guy that lives in the area that has a lot of European one gauge, and he brought a passenger car over one day, and it'll fit on the track. So it's kind of interesting.
So when it comes to, I'm not real familiar with the O gauge stuff, but when you have the N gauge and the HO gauge set up, will that be set up so it can be DCC compatible?
Yeah,
Okay.
you basically, on all the tracks, you have 2 outlets and a series of banana jacks, and you simply bring in your power pack and your control system and simply plug it into the track
Great.
and to the outlets.
Great.
There's, especially in the O gauge world, there's just too much variety, different control systems.
Right.
You know, it's all proprietary, too many different types of transformers. So I simply, rather than trying to anticipate every possible scenario, I just give you the outlets and you plug your stuff in.
Yep,
And that's just kind of the way it's going to work for now.
great. Well, thank you again, Tim.
Thank you for
Appreciate
coming
the
by.
tour and
Anytime.
hope, how many members, one more question, how many members do you have so far?
Right now, we've just started, so we've only got 5 or 6 members signed
Okay.
up. The biggest problem is just, this is a totally new concept, so
Right.
it's kind of hard to get people to really understand it. Most people don't understand it until they actually come up here and run with one of the guys that have already signed up.
Right,
And it's kind of like having a remote control TV. Once you've experienced this, it's hard to go back to getting up to switch the dials or a rotary phone or whatever your
Yeah.
analogy you want to use. So the hardest part is just getting people to understand the concept because it's a
Okay.
totally new concept. There's a lot of clubs out there. This is not a club.
right.
This is, you can buy the membership. You don't have to do any work or anything. You simply come in and run and take your stuff and go home. You don't have to work on this layout at all.
Okay, and give us your address?
The address is 1140 East South Boulder Road in Louisville.
Okay.
So,
And you do have to make sure that you're in Louisville when you're looking for the place, because my sister, who's not here with me, she told us it was in Lafayette, and we spent quite a while looking around. Thankfully, we got the phone number after the second try, and we've had a great time here. So until next time, guys and gals, this is George, the Shade Tree Railroad Band, saying thanks for watching. Here's looking at you. Bye now.